episode 82 of the Player 3 podcast. I'm your host, Luke Croft. Alongside me, we have the always visually stunning Larry Hunt.
Hi.
How are you doing, my friend?
I am great. You gave me a pumpkin donut with pumpkin coffee, and your house smells like pumpkin.
Look, it is Labor Day weekend, a glorious holiday where everyone joins us as millennials and doesn't go to work. So, according to everyone's perception of us. Did you see the trending hashtag yesterday? Hashtag how to confuse a millennial?
Yeah. I see that all the time. And here's the thing with those hashtags that really ticks me off.
Really grinds my gears.
There are a lot of non-millennials who use Twitter. And ironically, there are a lot of millennials whining about millennials on Twitter because they don't know what a millennial is.
And also, there's a lot of millennials whining about millennials on Twitter who don't realize that Twitter exists because of millennials.
Right.
Who decided to get up and invent something and go to work.
Yeah.
It is an upsetting trend to me. And this may sound very very millennial of me to say, but what people don't realize is we are a product of the generations before us. And so like the stereotypical perception of a millennial that exists doesn't exist just in a vacuum. Like, it didn't come to exist just in a vacuum. It's the result of baby boomers and, you know, that generation of people. And here's the thing, man, working in retail, I have learned this. There is not a more entitled generation of people than the baby boomers.
Yes.
Who just outright come out and ask for crap for free left and right. Mm-hmm. With just zero shame about it. And who think, well, I've been shopping here for X amount of time, I should get something for free now. I'm like, that's not how the world works. So whenever I hear anyone talking about entitled stuff, all I can think about is my retail experience proving to me that millennials aren't the most entitled.
So with my job, I spend a lot of time actually researching differences between generations. And one of my Facebook friends posted a video recently of a millennial bashing millennials, but she at least was aware that she was a millennial and she was apologizing for her crappy generation. But a lot of the video focused on the loose sexual morality of millennials. And I couldn't resist. I just jumped all over. I was like, do you not realize that the sexual revolution started in the 60s, way before millennials existed?
Yeah.
And they were talking about the celebrities we look up to. I'm like, go listen to the rock songs from your generation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This isn't new. And in fact, millennials are less sexual than the previous two generations. Mm-hmm. They just don't hide it. They're not hypocritical about it.
There's all kinds of those statistics, the quote unquote statistics like these assumptions of statistics about our generation, like that teen pregnancy is higher among our generation or among, and the funny thing is,
it's at an all-time low, isn't it?
Yeah, it's at an all-time low. And what people don't realize is high schoolers don't count as millennials either.
Right.
You know, they're Generation Z or something like that.
Some are calling them mosaics.
Yeah. You got to call the generation a word that generation can spell. So we'll go with Generation Z.
Now you sound like a boomer.
Dude, look, there is a rite of passage in the coming of age where you get to talk crap about those coming behind you. And I may not fully believe what I say about that generation, but I'm going to say it nonetheless, right? So we are the Player 3 podcast. We get together every Monday, push it out to you over on youtube.com/player3podcast, over here on twitch.tv/player3podcast. We're bringing back the live streaming, and I'll say it again, we can't really promise any kind of schedule for you just because our lives are all kind of crazy and hectic right now at the moment, and maybe those will settle out. I've been joined by one friend here as of late just because of various life circumstances, but I'm glad to have you here with me today, my friend.
Me too. I missed it.
I also would like to quickly announce, you've been hearing us talking about twoleftsticks.com. We actually soft launched our site, so you can go over to twoleftsticks.com, check out all of our content there. We've got a lot of really talented writers. My piece of recommendation as the editor-in-chief, my editor's choice for last week is Jared Randall's piece about police and gaming and the changing perceptions, and talk about humanizing the police forces in video games, and I thought it was a really interesting piece. What's up, Holly the Jedi? Welcome to the stream.
Sweet name.
So, yeah, twoleftsticks.com. You'll be able to find it over there. Also, for those of you who have been longtime fans of the Player 3 podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/twoleftsticks. We've launched a Patreon page. It's going to support our website, but there's a lot of really cool perks in there for Player 3 podcast fans as well, where there will be monthly special episodes, streams involving the editors at Two Left Sticks, which are also a lot of the same people who are hosts of the Player 3 podcast. So go over there, think about tossing us $1 or $5 and, getting on one of those tiers, figuring it out. And the editor's choice for tiers over on the rewards on our Patreon is for the $6 reward tier, the greatest photo ever taken tier, where every month you will receive literally the greatest photo ever taken. So head over to patreon.com/twoleftsticks and check that out. All right.
I am very curious.
Well, we will have to decide each month what the greatest photo ever taken is. We'll also have to probably recruit some people who have some very skilled, some very high skills with Adobe Photoshop. So, All right, you ready to get this party started?
I am.
Like we get every party started with the releases of the week.
Releases of the week.
Clap, clap.
Clap.
I miss Ben so much, man. And Ben has entered into fatherhood, and I understand that.
It's a tricky transition.
And I'm hoping, against all hope, that not that fatherhood will end soon,
Wow.
but that the transition into fatherhood will end soon, and he will find his way back. And I'm also hoping that I'll stop working 1 to close every Monday, and we can do this a little in the afternoon. So, all right. Holly the Jedi wants to know if we played Destiny.
Holly the Jedi, almost 2 years ago. Next week, 2 years ago. Next week.
This is another announcement.
We'll be 2 years old, and the first 4 episodes of this podcast were basically a Destiny podcast.
Yes, they were. Yeah. The inception of this podcast was we had very strong thoughts about Destiny, and so we wanted to put them together. We don't currently play Destiny. I know Seth still does. He's really looking forward to Rise of Iron, so we'll probably get him on after its release to talk about it.
I think.
Yeah. So I'm waiting for Destiny 2. I want to see what Destiny 2 is going to offer, and that may be when I jump back in. So,
yeah.
And I may be far behind because I guarantee you your character is going to carry over. But oh well, no big deal. Releases of the week. Here we go. All right, releasing on both consoles this week, we have XCOM 2. Strategy game, turn-based strategy game.
Is that an old game being re-released?
It is a PC-only game that's being ported over to consoles now. So I'm not huge into strategy games. You're a little more into them. Well, are you? Or was it just Halo Wars you were into?
I hated Halo
Oh,
Wars.
that's right. I always forget. It's you that hated it. Diz liked it.
I am apprehensive about a strategy game working well on console.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird medium to try to control it in. I enjoy strategy games, but since I don't game on the PC much anymore, I don't really touch them. I was all about some StarCraft back in the day, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on PS4 this week, there was no drop, which threw me off.
Labor Day vacations, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I guess. But The Tomorrow Children is releasing, and I'll just read a little blurb from the PlayStation blog. The Tomorrow Children is a free-to-play game that merges social and action gameplay to deliver a unique, new online sandbox experience from renowned indie studio Q Games, the Pixel Junk series. Mankind is on the verge of extinction, and you must cooperate with other players to build your town and defend it from monstrous invaders. Stand tall, unite with your fellow citizens, and help lead civilization back to its former glory. That game always looked really interesting to me. I didn't get a chance to play the beta. I got into the beta and downloaded it, but I didn't get a chance to play it. So I'll probably jump into this sometime this week, and I'll be ready to give some thoughts on it.
Another cool concept that I won't get to touch since I don't have a PlayStation.
Gosh, come to the dark side, my friend. My friend. Dude, I wish you had a PlayStation now, because now is an awesome time to hop on the Xbox train. There's so many good deals going right now where you get like you can buy like a 500 gigabyte slim console with the Halo games, and you get like $50 of Xbox store credit and a free game and all this junk. They have an $800 deal where you get an Xbox One S and a 55-inch 4K television. All kinds of crazy deals going on right now. So if I've learned anything, that Xbox One is the one to wait on when the new consoles come out, because they've had crazy deals even starting back like 6 months after the release of the console.
Yeah, I remember they like released their first bundle within weeks of me finally breaking down and buying one.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Because the original console didn't come with anything, right?
No.
That's right. The Kinect, that was your bundle, and you paid $100 extra for it. We love you, Xbox. Now you have to buy a stupid adapter for the Xbox One S so that your Kinect can even work.
Wow.
If you own the previous one, you can send in like your serial number, and they'll send you one for free.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, like just basically totally saying, screw you, Kinect owners and people who like the Kinect. So.
Well, people just didn't latch onto it, and
Yeah, I only use mine for voice commands. In fact, yesterday I had a sneaking feeling like I should just sell this. Like I don't use it enough to really justify it being there, and half the time it doesn't listen to me anyway.
I use mine for streaming, so I need.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And Just Dance.
Gosh, that's a reward tier over on patreon.com/2leftsticks. All right. So those are your releases of the week. Larry, let's move on to our newest segment, topics. Topics, yes. We have some topics for you. And if this is your first time ever listening to the podcast, these are generally songs that Ben Hankins sings, but we refuse to sing the jingles. But we will say them in his honor.
Indeed.
All right. Larry, let's start with you, my friend.
Oh,
and by the way, let me just ask you this because I didn't know if you got down to the bottom. Do you have a random question of the week for later?
I do.
Okay, awesome.
Sorry, I meant to give you a heads up before we started.
You're good. Go ahead. Thrust us into your topic.
All right. So, over the last couple of weekends, Respawn put out a Titanfall multiplayer technical test. Did I miss a word?
Titanfall 2 multiplayer tech test 2. Because there was one the weekend before as well, or 2 weeks before. So,
yeah. Well,
Titanfall 2 multiplayer technical test 2.
Right. Which we appreciated them calling it that because it's not a beta.
Right. But it was also very Nintendo of them.
They also caught flack from some people because they didn't call it a beta. And I felt very much on my high horse, like, you don't understand.
Oh, yes. This game is very close to release. It is not a beta.
Anyway, so I didn't get a chance to play the first one, but I did get a chance to jump into the second one.
The first tech test.
Yes. I played the crap out of the first Titanfall game. Did not play the first tech test, but I did play Titanfall 2 multiplayer tech test 2. And I enjoyed it, but it has left me in utter despair about how this game is going to launch. Because when it comes down to it, at its core, it still feels like the same game to me. I saw people complaining that pilots move more slowly and it's a bit more sluggish. I didn't get that feeling myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had no problem moving through the environment and mowing people down. That part was good in my opinion. But the Titans are easier to take down. When you rodeo them, you don't have to do this cool thing where you rip off a panel and gun down their insides. You pull battery out, jump off, jump on, put a grenade in, jump off, jump on, put a grenade in, jump off, jump on, put a grenade in. That's how you take a Titan down. It's real lame, kind of stinks. And you aren't guaranteed to get a Titan every match. It's a kill streak reward more or less, and that kind of kills the game because you could miss out on the Titans. And
it's more of a performance based reward because like you don't have to like string together 5 kills without dying in order to get it. It helps if you do, but yeah, that was probably the biggest thing for me in terms of changing it. Mostly because, full disclosure, I suck at video games, so I love talking about them. I love playing them. I've never really considered myself to be particularly good at them, and Titanfall is one of the more Twitch based shooters that exists, and I sucked it up during this tech test, during the Titanfall 2 multiplayer tech test 2. So the fact that the Titan isn't on a timer that speed can increase with your performance and was just solely based on your performance was a little disheartening because it makes it more about the pilots than it makes it about the Titans, and I felt like that's a complete shift from the original Titanfall.
Right. And so all of those things led to a lot of bad publicity for them. Like a lot of people were disappointed by this tech test and want to see some changes, but we're way too close to launch for them to be making any major changes. And then you couple that with the fact that the release window they've chosen is just atrocious. They're releasing within a week of Battlefield 1, How close are they to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare?
A week. It's November 4th.
So a week each direction for the two most anticipated shooters of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're launching on the same day as the Skyrim remaster, which probably doesn't have a whole lot of carryover between audience, but it ain't going to help them any.
Right.
And so coupling the missteps they've made in the gameplay with the release window, I just think this game's going to be dead on arrival. And it breaks my heart because I love Titanfall.
Yeah. And I've been saying this since the Titanfall 2 multiplayer tech test 2 finished, that this is a game that desperately needs to be delayed. Like, I don't understand what the thinking is behind releasing this so close to Call of Duty. They've kind of explained why it's releasing so close to Battlefield, that they don't think it's going to cannibalize it. Do I think that's true? Not at all. I think a first-person shooter is a first-person shooter, not in its quality, not in its delivery, but in terms of being on the market. Like, people that are playing Battlefield 1 aren't going to be like, well, Titanfall 2 is different enough. Like, the overwhelming majority of people playing Battlefield 1 aren't going to think that and jump over. And it benefited greatly from its original March release window when the first one came out. Like, we've learned this lesson over and over and over again in gaming in this generation, that it does not matter when you release your game. It's going to make sales. Like Dying Light came out in January, did great. Metal Gear Solid 5 came out in September, did great. The Witcher came out in May, did great. If you have a good product, or a product at least that people are excited about, you're going to find a market for it regardless of where you release it, unless it's a week before Call of Duty, which looks like a lot of the same sensibilities within it, and honestly is probably going to be delivered on better. And we've had that argument before, but I just think Call of Duty is more seasoned in this field. And after the Titanfall 2 multiplayer tech test 2 came out, it was clear that they hadn't learned some of the lessons that from Titanfall's initial failure in keeping people attached. And they might have even regressed from where they were. Yeah. And that's not a good thing. Like, now, that's not to say that everything within it was bad. There are things that I like. The added verticality of being able to use a grappling hook is really, really awesome. Yeah. All the different all the different pilot abilities that you have are really cool. One of the other things I really disliked is that you have to choose whether or not you want a sidearm or an anti-Titan weapon. Yeah. That was a very odd decision.
Like, nobody's going to carry a sidearm in this game now.
Yeah.
That's all that resulted in.
Unless the only way you take down Titans is rodeoing them. Which, honestly, when you have your grappling hook, it's a lot easier because you can just aim at it and throw it on there and boom, you're good.
Yeah. And before the multiplayer technical tests, I was kind of holding out hope that, you know what, maybe this game has advanced so much that it can go toe-to-toe with Call of Duty because they're so similar. Maybe it won't be disastrous, but having played what they've offered so far, no, they can't. Call of Duty has definitely ripped some pages out of the Titanfall playbook. There's no doubt about that. But they've ripped them out and improved them.
Yeah.
And another thing I meant to mention before we even got into this discussion is they've decided not to include Titanfall 2 in the EA Access.
In Origin Access. Yeah. That was, I saw that this morning, and I thought it was a very, very odd decision.
A lot of people are taking it as them backpedaling in a panic because they're afraid of the negative reviews that can come out when people get those 10 free hours, which is hurting them pretty bad.
I think that's part of it, and I think what can culminate in that, like what can result in bad reviews is, we added single player, it's 4 hours. Something like that. You know, it makes me think that you'd be able to marathon through the single player and still have plenty of time to get into the multiplayer stuff, that you can get a pretty full breadth experience of what Titanfall 2 is going to be within of what Titanfall 2 is going to be in that 10 hours. It was incredibly odd of me, and especially the part that was like, we may add it into the EA and Origin Access stuff after a year. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
we talk about it all the time that like a review embargo that takes you right up to release, or even like in Assassin's Creed Unity thing where it's like, hey, the embargo is 8 hours after release or 12 hours after release or whatever it was, like that there's an amount of caution that needs to be had when entering into those experiences. And so for Titanfall to just be like, hey, we don't want people to be able to experience this without giving us money to experience it, means do not buy this on release. That's plain and simple to me. Like, don't buy this when this game comes out. They are obviously trying to set themselves up to guard themselves from some of the negative press that's going to come from this. And the way that we combat that as a consumership is we say, hey, we'll wait a couple weeks.
Yep.
We'll see. We'll wait till IGN and GameSpot and Polygon and all those people, release their reviews and their thoughts on it, and then we'll kind of take their word for it. And the problem is, no one's going to care. No one cares. People don't read into that. People are like, well, I like Titanfall 1 pretty good. I'll buy Titanfall 2 day of. But don't. Like, why would you? When a company is doing everything within their power to keep it out of your hands before asking you to give money for it.
Yep.
So, all right.
And anyone who decides to wait a couple of weeks, they're going to wind up buying Battlefield or Call of Duty, and they're just never going to come back to it. That game's going to die faster than the first Titanfall did.
So where did this game leave you as a consumer?
What do you mean? Like, am I going to buy it?
Yeah.
I don't think I am. Because I don't think I'll have anybody to play with.
Yeah, I most certainly am not. Battlefield 1's been awesome. The beta's been awesome. You didn't really get a chance to experience it all that much, but I think you'll love it too because it's visceral. Yeah. And we'll talk about it here at the end of the podcast in our review segment. But I think it has a lot of things that you're really going to like in it. So, all right, let's move on. Is that all you needed to say about Titanfall?
It is.
Okay. I'm sorry, my friend. I know this is very hard for you. This is like seeing your kid grow up to be a career criminal.
It is. No, worse than that. It's like seeing your kid grow up to be a lazy millennial with no job.
All right.
Hey, I don't know if this matters, but my little green bouncy bars on the soundboard aren't anywhere near your green bouncy bars on the soundboard.
What? Oh, man. That may matter. Hold on. Let's turn this up right here. Live television, folks. Oh, it
doesn't matter a whole lot.
No, it doesn't. That soundboard's a piece of crap. That soundboard is solid 30 years old. So, which is something that I really would like to upgrade at some point. All
Much
right.
like many millennials.
Yes.
30 years old.
Millennials started in 1985. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then they stop at 99?
I believe so.
So, yeah. Why are we talking about millennials all the time? I started this.
The boomers are.
Hashtag how to confuse a millennial. Get them 30 minutes into a podcast still talking about millennials. All right. My topic. So this week is a big week for Sony. They are having their PlayStation meeting in New York on Wednesday. The Neo is expected to make its appearance there. The Slim is all but made its appearance there with plenty of leaks here. So let's who won our milkshake bets for E3, by the way?
I don't remember.
I think you and I tied.
Really? I thought I lost.
No. Yeah, me and Diz tied. Then Diz died.
Right. So
maybe we just ship him a Sonic gift card or something. Do they have Sonics in wherever he lives now?
I don't know.
The North Pole. We'll send him a gift card for some corn since he lives up in Indiana. It's their state flower.
Yeah.
So we won't make this a milkshake bet, but let's offer some predictions here for the PlayStation meeting. We know the Slim's coming. We're almost positive the Neo is going to be there. Very important for Sony to get this right. First of all, what do you think the Neo is going to be in terms of its power in comparison with what has been leaked about like the Scorpio and stuff? Do you think what are you thinking it's going to be? Have you given it much thought?
I've not given it much thought, but off the cuff, I feel like it's not going to quite stack up to the Scorpio,
Mm-hmm.
just because I think we were all a little surprised by what the Scorpio was,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think they've had enough time to kind of be like, oh, well, we need to redirect this. So I don't think it's gonna quite be that.
Yeah.
But I don't know what to say that it is, to be honest.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Is that you? I thought it was me.
Okay. No, that's my wife texting me and it being very, very loud. So here's my thoughts on the Neo. I think there are some things that suggest that this is going to be like a major step forward in terms of power for the PlayStation 4. However, I think that this is going to be something that is going to launch parallel to the PlayStation VR. It is going to be something that is really only an attractive option for people who are interested in picking up PlayStation VR. So the PS4, when you buy PlayStation VR now, you need this this supplemental processing box that's going to attach itself to your PlayStation 4 in order to be able to run the Neo. I think in order to run the PlayStation VR, I think the Neo is going to be the PS4 with that supplemental piece built into it. So that's my thoughts on it. And
Makes sense.
There's a couple things that lead me to believe that. Number one, the fact that they haven't kind of stepped back and gone to the drawing board, but after seeing what the Scorpio is going to be, because what they don't want to do with the Neo is release something that's going to be way outpowered in a year. And I think, like you said, everyone was kind of knocked off kilter by what the Scorpio is being rumored and spec'd at, you know. The second thing is that they haven't opened up any more pre-orders for the PlayStation VR. So, and this is something that Sony has been researching and developing for years, and I would imagine they have the means to mass produce this to equal the amount of demand that they have for the product. And the pre-orders for the PlayStation VR have been sold out for a couple months now. So it would make sense that at this PlayStation meeting they announced the Neo that's capable of running the VR without the supplemental unit, and say we are also releasing a bundle where you get PlayStation VR and the Neo together, and that's available for pre-order now. And that way people can jump in on it. They can start trading in, you know, their old PlayStations in towards it and that sort of stuff. So we've talked at length, and I don't think we need to necessarily get into it anymore about our thoughts on the iterative console future that we're moving into. And I would be more comfortable here with them kind of placing this piece of hardware behind the virtual reality agenda that they're setting forward to say, look, this is something it's going to give users of just regular PS4 users that don't use VR some sense of an upgrade. You know, games may load faster. You may be able to upscale them to something. You know, it may support high dynamic range like the Xbox One S or something like that. But when you put the Neo next to the PS4, the main bullet point of difference is going to be that this runs the PlayStation VR without that supplemental processing unit. And that way you can come in at a price point of like $699 bundled with the VR unit, and it'd be a super attractive bundle because you can knock off the price for the processing unit because you found a way to build it straight into the system itself. So
yeah,
I'd be comfortable with that. I'd also be comfortable with something modular. And I was a little disappointed when Phil Spencer came out talking about the Xbox, how we're not going to be moving towards a day where you just have to where they're going to ship them with a screwdriver. I would love to see something where I don't have to buy a new box every 5 years because I can just replace parts in it. And I know that's basically a PC, but the console space is a way to figure out how to do that in a way that is cheaper and more efficient and effective and more user-friendly than just trying to build your own PC. So
I've taken a pretty hard stance against that, but as time goes on, I get more comfortable with it. I've said that if they do that, I'm just going to go back to PC gaming, and maybe depends on how they did it. If they found the cheaper, affordable way to do it, that'd be cool. But it makes me think of the N64. You had an extension pack to extend the memory at one point. You had the Rumble pack to introduce Rumble to the controller, and there were a couple other things. But I could see that kind of thing. All right, just pull this component out and put this one in. It's simple. You don't have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas you could totally destroy your PC if you don't know what.
Yeah, I think if they could figure out a way to do it with tabs, not necessarily with a screwdriver, but like, hey, you just push these two tabs in, pull it out, slide it in, like the Xbox 360 did with the internal hard drives. You know, you just had the little flap that popped out, you pulled your hard drive out, you popped the new one in, and it connected. If they could figure out a way to do that, and I don't know enough about building PCs and having components like that to say definitively if that's even possible, but if they could figure out a way to do it, that would be great. What doesn't bode well for that is Google just shut down their modular phone experiment that they had been doing for a few years. So maybe the marketplace isn't viable for something modular like that. But when you have hardcore gaming fans who are willing to jump behind anything that's new, I think now's the time to try to do it. You've got the goodwill of fans, and you've got the goodwill of consumers. You have the excitement of consumers as well. If you announce something modular, this may be the time that people can jump in behind it. And if you deliver a good product, that momentum can carry you forward into the more casual audience as well. So. Now let's do some talking about the Slim here. The Slim leaked. Doesn't look a whole lot slimmer than the PS4 because the PS4 I was fairly convinced that the PlayStation 4 didn't really even need a slim iteration because they did such a good job of making a tight design and doing it in such a way that still makes the hard drive accessible, easy to replace, all those sorts of things. You got to see the design of the Slim, right? You open that link. If not, I can open it up for you here.
I did, but it was wee hours of morning.
The wee hours of the morning. Let me get this open for you.
Blanking on what it looks like, to be honest.
So here it is, looking mucho grande, just like a PS4, just a little bit smaller. So my question to you, Larry, is this. Let's talk about price point for both the Neo and the PlayStation Slim here. So right now, you can buy a brand new PlayStation 4 bundled with Call of Duty Black Ops 3 for $350. So entering into the market, where do you think the Slim's going to land as far as the price point goes, and where do you think the Neo is going to land as far as the price point goes? Knowing what the Slim is and just kind of blindly stabbing at something with the Neo.
I think unbundled, they'll hit that $350 mark with the Slim.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine they'll try to keep it somewhat close to the current price, but yeah, I don't know. That seems about right for me. The Neo, I'm not really sure. The idea you pitched earlier of a VR bundle with it for, what'd you say?
Like $699.
That would be awesome, but I have no idea. I have no idea what, until I actually know what it is.
Yeah. This is just some wild speculation here.
Wild speculation.
So here's my thoughts on the Slim. One of the main things, and I don't even know if it was in this article, I just did so much reading about it and found one to put in the show notes so you could just see it. One of the things that they did with the Slim is they took the optical port out of the back, which is an odd decision. Like for me, my optical cable runs from my TV to my soundbar. It doesn't run directly off of my consoles because I run multiple consoles on that television. But there are high-end gaming headsets that require the optical cable. So like the Astro A40s, they run on an optical cable. So they made a conscious decision to remove an element of this console that at least a percentage of its user base was using. Now they probably have. It's like anything else that is taken away, split screen co-op or whatever. Like they probably have research that indicates that it's a small percentage of people that'll be affected by it. But they've taken the optical cable out of the back. But that leads me to believe that they are trying to figure out a way to reduce the cost of this thing to the point that they can come into the market at an even lower price than the original PlayStation 4. So here's my speculation here. I think the Neo, we're going to be looking at $399, $449, somewhere like that. So $400, $450 without a bundle, with no bundle. I think we'll see a $699 bundle with the PlayStation VR baked into it, with no Move controllers or camera or anything like that, but just the headset, maybe the camera. I don't know. And then I think we're going to see the Slim come in at $299. We haven't had a price cut for the PS3 in like a year and a half, 2 years. You know, it came into the market at $399 and we're still selling it at $349. So it's due for a price drop. And also when you can buy Xbox Ones now for $250. They're the original models, but you're buying them for $250. there needs to be something that gives.
Yeah.
And $100 price difference is what really killed, and poor messaging and all that stuff, is what killed the Xbox One launch. But how long can PlayStation 4 continue when they lost last month in console sales? They'll probably lose this month in console sales. So have to narrow that gap a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'm excited about it, though. I've gone from timid about the current landscape of gaming to more open about let's see where this goes. Because I like technology, and technology is moving faster now than it ever has before. And I think this is just the way it's going to be. And it's one of those either get on board or get left behind kind of deals.
If they can get down to 250, it becomes actually tempting and realistic for me to maybe jump onto that PlayStation train.
What about $2.99 bundled with a game?
Possibly. With Christmas time rolling in? You think it would launch by holiday?
It's Christmas. What?
You think that it'll launch by holiday? Have they announced a date yet?
Okay. I think I think the Slim, it's going to be, I think everything comes out October 13th. That's my other prediction. VR's coming out the 13th. Launch the Neo the 13th, the Slim the 13th. That way, and another thing that the Slim does here, the Xbox Slim does for the Scorpio, is it gives you an affordable option right next to the high end. Xbox decided to put a year between it, but I think if you launch it on the same day, you can say, hey, we're covering the whole market here. The casual gamer that wants a cheaper entry point and doesn't really care about VR or 4K resolution or anything like that can come in on the Slim, or those who want to go all out, shell out $750 for a bundle that comes with PlayStation VR. You can do that too. Yeah. So I think October 13th is just going to be a huge day for Sony.
Yeah. And you saying that makes me wonder about the wisdom in delaying Scorpio. Or well, not delaying, but waiting so long. Just a lot can change in a year. Mm-hmm. What's super impressive to us right now might not be next year.
That's true. I do think with the Scorpio, they are kind of safeguarded by the fact that there's really only 3 companies that do consoles, and they're one of them.
Yeah.
And we already know the NX. We don't already know. We already have great speculation that the NX isn't going to really push the boundaries as far as technical power goes. And the PlayStation, unfortunately, and we know that the and we have speculation that the Neo is not going to kind of touch what the Scorpio is going to do. So they're safeguarded in that regard. And I also think they wanted to avoid the perception of, oh crap, well, here's this new console, just a few years after we all bought the Xbox One, and they were like starting to gain some footing with the original Xbox One already, and I guess they didn't want to lose more ground.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
All right. Moving on to the news with the podcast guys. All right. Firewatch is making its way to the Xbox One on September 21st and is going to feature a free roam mode and commentary. I've already ultra spoiled this game for you. So,
well, we didn't anticipate it I didn't anticipate it jumping over.
I'm pretty excited about this free roam mode, and I really like the idea of baked in commentary where the developers talk about the development of the game as you're playing the game,
Yeah.
If you haven't played Firewatch yet and you're listening to this podcast and you didn't listen to the part where I spoiled the crap out of it in a podcast, which we gave ample warning before I did it, but even if I did spoil it for you, pick it up and play it. And it got mixed reviews because I think some people were expecting something different when they played it, but from my standpoint, it is still in my top 3 favorite games I've played this year, with The Witness, Oxenfree, and Firewatch. Those are the top 3 games I've played this year that I'm just and I don't know if that list is going to change even with these big releases that are coming. Gears may find its way on there.
Overwatch doesn't find its way on there for you?
I think Overwatch is 4 for me. I have a lot of fun with Overwatch, but what I find myself really gravitating and grasping like holding on to for a long time are these kind of experiences that I get by myself.
Yeah.
Overwatch is fun because I get to play it with you guys, and it's a fun game in and of itself as well that I've eaten crow on many times now because it's continued to have legs. But those experiences that I can step back from and say, man, that made me think, that made me feel. Those are always gonna trump a multiplayer experience.
Yeah. Yeah, as I look back, the gaming experiences that I remember, there are a handful of multiplayer experiences, but it's the excellent stories that really stay with you over time.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, like you love the Halo series because
That universe, like they put so much into it. If you want to dive into the other stuff, I've not been impressed with their like movie, TV stuff, but like getting into the books and everything, I highly recommend.
Mm-hmm. So, play Firewatch September 21st. I didn't see a price point on it. Probably $20-25.
All
right, Larry,
talk to me.
You talk to me because you were far better at Red on this than I. Talk to me about these changes that we've had to Overwatch. Competitive Season 2 has begun. What can Overwatch players expect to find when they jump in?
All right.
Here we go.
There is a ton, and I'm going to miss some of it unless you want to pull that thing up on your screen.
Oh, yeah, I'll pull it. Let's not get too in the weeds here about it.
Yeah.
Like, let's just hit the high points here.
All right. Well, there are several changes to characters, and we won't hit all those to stay out of the weeds, but they've changed a little bit of the way that the ultimates work and how quickly they deplete when you're using them. A minor difference, but a difference to be aware of. They've changed the projectile sizes a little bit, kind of tweaking how some of that damage gets delivered. One of the big important changes, though, that is they've tweaked Zenyatta again, and I name him in particular because they've been tweaking him a couple times lately, and it has turned him into a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
A Zenyatta can take you down fast if he has Discord on you. So they reduced how much of how much extra damage Discord causes, while also increasing the damage that his orbs themselves do. So he is a monster. I hate having to take him on now. So that's an important change character-wise. As far as competitive play, you used to be put on a skill rating from 1 to 100. Now it's measured on a 1 to 5,000 scale, so a little more accurate. They've added tiers: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, and grandmaster. And whatever tier you earn, you stay in, with the exception of the top 2 tiers. You have to continue playing and maintain your rank in master and grandmaster because there's only a certain number of players that are allowed to be in that tier.
So we were talking last night, and this clarifies a little bit about the skill range you have to be within. So if you're in master and grandmaster, which are the top 2 tiers, you have to be within 500 skill points of your teammates. And diamond tier is 1,000. Everything below diamond, so platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, you can play with each other.
Oh, so we're not nearly good enough for this to ever be an issue.
Yeah.
We're good.
And here's the thing I love about Overwatch. And this has actually made me kind of appreciate the game more, and then I'll let you get back to talking about some of these changes. The game is so well balanced that I feel like I'm pretty good at it, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you go and you look at yourself globally and among all the players, you start to realize, like, me and you are in the middle of the road. We're in like the 50th percentile of everything. And I think that is a great testament to how well balanced this game is, despite all the tweaking and changes that they do, you know?
Yeah.
You would think that because of the big sweeping changes they make to their characters, because every big update has about 7 characters getting touched and adjusted, you would think, like, man, they're really struggling to find the way that this is balanced. But it does a great job of making you feel like you're really good by placing you among players that you can be really good against without winning everything that you do.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to point out, make that little observation. So I'll hand it back to you now.
One thing, I know you weren't super happy with this, but I was actually really thrilled with it, is they've taken sudden death out of the game completely. Now, if both teams manage to achieve the objective, they take it back to, if you have extra time left on your clock, you get to use that time to try to achieve it. If both teams wind up in an equal place after that, then it's a tie game. It's just, we're done. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that because so many sudden death matches, depending on the map, it was, if you got offense, you're going to win. If you got defense, you're going to win, depending on what the map was. Mm-hmm. And so this just puts it, I'm okay with a tie, more so than I was with having to deal with.
Well, you big, dirty, rotten millennial. This is you just wanting everybody to get a participation reward.
You're right. You're right.
No, I am very much in the mindset of I don't mind losing as long as somebody wins, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to. Competitive matches take a long time, especially if you're playing Control.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend 45 minutes of my night just to be like, oh, it was a tie. Even if it is a little bit unbalanced, like,
Yeah.
and depends on a coin toss. I mean, that's how the NFL works a lot. So
True.
but yeah, I'm still not too happy about it. It's not anything like game breaking about it that's going to get me to stop playing it or whatever. What would have gotten me to stop playing it is if they would have sectioned us off into tiers and we absolutely wouldn't have been able to play with each other, because I'm not playing that game by myself. It's a nightmare.
I'm glad I misunderstood that. Because like I was saying, this isn't going to happen for the people that care enough that they wind up in those top 3 tiers. But if that had been a like every tier worked that way, that would just result in me throwing games till I'm back on my teammates' level or whatever.
Yeah. Or asking your friends to do it. Like, hey, just throw yourself off that map over and over and over again.
Oh, you didn't want an ice wall there? My bad. I did it again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still learning May. You're level 86.
And you've played 70 hours as May.
Then there was like a huge list of bug fixes, and we don't need to dive into that, but they fixed a lot of bugs.
What do you think about the new map?
I really like it. The first part is kind of interesting, kind of tight, but then that second part was just so wide open that like I don't think there's another map in Overwatch that is as wide open as the second half of the new map.
I do think as many things as Overwatch gets right, one of the things that they tend to get wrong is most of the maps kind of feel the same. They have 2 or 3 kind of choke points where you're like, this is where we really have to try to funnel them all together so that we can take them out if you're playing defense or whatever. And the points of frustration you're going to get to on each map if you're running an attack. And this kind of gets all that out of the way, because it's a payload map where you secure the payload and then escort the payload. That securing the payload, like you said, it's really tight. There's a whole lot of dying involved in it and a whole lot of Symmetra turrets and Torbjorn turrets going on in it. But then it does something that no other map does, and like, this is wide open and you have a lot of ways to pull the flank regardless of the character you're playing as. Whereas on every other map, it's like tracer flanks, and you can get a flank with like D.Va and some other the tanks that have a little bit more mobility. But outside of that, you're really going to just start taking people head on. And I appreciate that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And it's kind of counterintuitive that the tight part of the map is the securing of the payload and the wide open is the escorting it. It makes it a challenge to keep pushing the payload, because especially if the other team is playing some distance on you. It's cool. It's a good dynamic. I'm glad for the variety, and I'll say again, I'm just impressed with the way they continually keep adding to this game and keep making tweaks that make sense. And it's good. Did you see Reinhardt's new skin?
No.
Oh, you should look at it. It's pretty cool. He's like covered in moss. It's neat.
Reinhardt new skin. So like the Bastion skin where he's covered in?
Sort of.
Foliage. Images. Here we go.
Yeah.
Any of these it?
That's it.
This first one?
It turns out that I'm going blind.
That's just camouflage. That's some great camouflage. Just looks like he's covered all up in some mouse. Oh, man. Also worth mentioning that you were right this morning about something that I was very wrong about. So.
Oh, yeah. If you have not played Overwatch yet, this weekend it is free to play. So nothing to lose. Jump in and give it a shot. Even if you tried the beta, come check the game out as it is now. They did a lot in the beta.
You aren't going to immediately get killed by that big red dragon flying through the sky, which is a change that I absolutely love.
Yeah. But Hanzo is more deadly on his own now. Yeah. Which I don't know how I feel about. They had made him worthless, and now he feels a little OP to me. If I see a Hanzo, I usually just run away.
Yeah. Let me also give this little caveat here. Even on the free-to-play weekend, because this is a little difficult for Overwatch. Like, how do you manage this dynamic? That you have Overwatch, and then you have real Overwatch, and real Overwatch is competitive Overwatch, and so everyone that's going to be trying it free this weekend is going to be trying the quick play, which honestly is a crapshoot when you get into it. Are you going to get a team that's like, hey, we're going to have 5 of the same characters running around because we don't care? Or are we going to not have heals or have a tank or something like that? And it can really be like an awful experience in quick play. There are many nights where we'll get 2 matches in and just be like, yeah, we can't do this. This is too bad.
And we do this thing where if we have a random teammate that makes a really stupid character decision and we're in quick play and it doesn't matter because there's no skill rating, we all go to their crappy character choice.
Yeah.
And sometimes we actually dominate that way. But one of the best thing to do if you're wanting to check this game out is get some friends to check it out with you. That way you know who you're playing with. If you're making stupid decisions, you can be like, dude, stop that.
And also a word to the newbies jumping on. Get a character in each class type that you feel comfortable playing with. Don't just say like, well, I just want to run attack, so I'm going to learn how to play every single attacking player. I only really know how to play one attacking player, and that's Pharah. I can't play Genji or McCree or Tracer. I'm not suck with Tracer. Like, learn people across the gamut. That way, in quick play and in competitive play, you can be a little more fluid and help your team out a little more.
And if you can get to where you're able to be fluid and as a team smartly make character changes as the match progresses to counter what your opponents are doing, it can be pretty awesome. But I'll also say I've been playing a lot of competitive play by myself, and I got paired up with some guys the other night. They started to kind of argue about team composition, and one guy was like, dude, everyone just play what you're good with. I found that works better than trying to get the perfect team comp sometimes. And he was right to a point. Like, if you force it and have people playing stuff they just hate and suck with, then you're going to lose just as bad as if your team comp's bad.
Yeah, there are things you absolutely need to have. Like, you need to have a healer. You need to have a tank. But outside of that, you should be all right.
Almost.
Yeah.
I've seen some teams that run a lot of the self-healing heroes.
Yeah.
And that's a nightmare to deal with.
Well, see, I play Pharah, so we need a healer. Right?
True. We need a healer for what we run, for sure.
Yeah. So, all right.
I can be your healer, baby. I can trick guard all your pain.
Oh, I thought we were just going to go straight Ricky Martin. Is that Ricky Martin?
I didn't think so.
Enrique Iglesias.
Yeah.
That was racist of me.
No, it's okay to mix up singers, even if they're the same nationality.
I guess they're a lot of the same genre.
Yeah.
Shake your bonbon, shake your bonbon. That was Ricky Martin.
It's all about just kind of romantic songs. Like Shake Your Bonbon.
All right.
That Loco song? Something Loco. I don't know. My sister loved Ricky Martin. She had a poster.
Oh, man. Now you've got me. What is it? Oh, well, moving on. We got to go because I'm getting hungry. So let's go through here.
Right.
Gears of War 4 Horde Mode 3.0 has been revealed. Okay, full disclosure here. I work at GameStop. And if you've been in GameStop ever and in like the last month, you know, Andrea Renee does GameStop TV.
Yeah.
And I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but the guy, I don't remember his name, he's talking about how he enjoys the single player, I think. And Andrea Renee's line is, well, I'm more of a horde girl. And she is so, what's the word I'm looking for? She's so deliberate about her pronunciation of it. And it just comes across as her being like, I know what this is going to sound like to all these teenage boys and millennials that are coming into GameStop. And I laugh every time I hear it because she's just like, I'm more of a horde girl. Listen for it next time you come into the store. It's great. But yeah, Horde Mode 3.0 has been revealed. It's going to be 5-player co-op. Same thing as old Gears games. You go up against 50 waves of increasingly difficult enemies. And by the way, I'm reading this from over on GameSpot. This is Matt Paget over there. And he says However, there's plenty of new features that are coming. Players can utilize fabricators, which lets you build things like defense turrets and weapons to help you out against the enemy horde. Additionally, there's a new class-based system that lets you assign 5 different roles: soldier, sniper, scout, heavy, and engineer. And that's so you can have a team composition, and that's what a lot of shooters are moving into the direction of. And then the last big thing is it's going to utilize a card system. So it says gears can be used by players to add buffs such as dealing 10% more damage with lancers or carrying 20% more explosive ammunition. It's not confirmed that these specific cards can be purchased through microtransactions. Other parts of the game offer this as well, and purchasable cosmetic cards can be used in Horde 3.0. So I am not normally a huge Horde mode fan, but for some reason in Gears, I love it. I've always loved it. So I'm really excited about this. Kind of the tower defense elements that they're adding into it.
Yeah.
And just the sheer difficulty of it. I remember when Gears 3 came out, when I was in college, we stayed up till like 4 a.m, and I think the highest we got to was level 43 or something like that. So we did pretty good, but it gets so intense, and if you're playing with 5 friends, in the communications there, it can be one of the more fun online multiplayer experiences that you can have. So, are you a big Horde fan for Gears?
I've only played Gears for 5 minutes in your house one time. And Gears is a game that I know I will love. It's just there's always been something else I've cared about when it comes out. I've always been like deep into a Halo game or something. And this is the first one. It's launching, and like really there's nothing on the docket that I'm like, yeah, I really want that, you know?
Yeah.
So this may be the first Gears game I really jump into.
Gosh, me, you, Jess, Seth. I don't think Ben's a big Gears guy. So, but maybe Ben. Playing Horde mode, you'll love it, man. I know you'll love it because it's all about teamwork. It's all about communication.
And I love Horde mode type stuff. Left 4 Dead, when you had the survival type stuff. I liked zombies, but it was a little slow. Like I don't know. I loved Halo's.
What do they call it? Not Warzone. Crap.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Halo's Horde mode.
Yeah.
But one thing that concerns me with this is if those cards that provide the boosts are gained through microtransactions, that'll kind of ruin it for me. Just in terms of like comparing yourself to other people. What's it called? Firefight, yeah. Because they introduced Firefight to Halo 5, and I can't stand it. It's like it's all based on what cards you have to play, and
yeah,
you got to buy packs to get the best cards.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I look at the people who are best on scoreboards and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that guy spends real money. So please don't do that, Gears. Please.
Yeah. I do want to get back into Halo, though. We've been playing so much Overwatch. I kind of miss Halo 5.
Okay.
All right. Last item on the list. EA executive Peter Moore says a Mass Effect remaster isn't going to happen. Let me just throw this in here. If you call yourself a gaming fan, and I tweeted this out last night, you owe it to yourself to go onto your podcast app right now that you're listening to us on, unless you're watching it on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube as well. And search for Podcast Unfiltered from IGN. It's a monthly podcast. Ryan McCaffrey interviews people in the industry. His last interview was with Peter Moore. It is so insightful, so in-depth. You learn so much about the inner workings and the inner decisions of gaming companies. It's magnificent. So you owe it to yourself to go listen to it and educate yourself. I educate myself every time I listen to it. So, but Peter Moore talks about Mass Effect remasters, and so I'm just going to just bear with me. It's a big quote, but this is important because we've talked about remasters a lot on this podcast. Quote, "We're a company that is focused on delivering for the future," Peter Moore told IGN. Quote, "I was asked a question once about remasters, and I said, it's just not what we do. We've got incredibly talented dev studios around the world who are focused on delivering new IP, new experiences, and more live services. Can we make an easy buck on remastering Mass Effect? Yes. Have 1,000 people ask me that? Yes. Yes, they have. We just feel like we want to go forward. There's a little thing called Mass Effect Andromeda that we're totally focused on at BioWare, and it's going to be magnificent. end quote. Moore went on to say that, quote, anything that distracts, end quote, from Andromeda, including Mass Effect remasters, is not something EA would want to pursue. Also, he suggested EA doesn't have the internal bandwidth to make Mass Effect remasters. Quote, do we have teams lying around that are doing nothing right now and can go and make a remaster? No, we don't. We want to focus on the future and delivering new IP and new experiences. There's easy money to be made all over this industry, but the real focus should be on being player first and focused on delivering new IP and new experiences, and that's where our real focus is, end quote. Then McCaffrey asks him about player demand, and, if players are first, why don't you make something the players want? Quote, is there demand? Yes, there's thousands of people who want it. Do we need millions? I don't know. End quote. He said, adding that there would be costs beyond the financial ones to releasing Mass Effect remasters. Quote, our blinders are on and we are looking towards the future, end quote. What are your thoughts?
I can appreciate that. We've talked about this a lot, and there have been games where I can't remember which of us have done it, but I know some of us have vocalized, like, why are they wasting resources? Like, they've got to be wasting some kind of resources on this remaster when they should be focused on the game that's coming out. And historically, we support remasters of games that deserve it, that are like huge touchstone games. But some games go overboard with it, and it's clearly just to make a quick buck, like he said. And maybe for all remasters, that's what it is for a company. But sometimes I think a game does really deserve that look back. And I think Mass Effect is one of those games. But at the same time, I can appreciate the person who made that game saying, I already did that. I don't want to go back and do that again. I want to do the thing that's coming up. And so, yeah, I'm cool with this.
Yeah. I don't really understand his point about the internal bandwidth existing, because most major studios aren't the ones that are remastering their games. They send those out and contract them out to port houses and companies that can do it. And maybe EA has a policy that they want to keep everything internal. That way they can be fully over the QA of it. But that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But I'm with you. I really respect a company that says, hey, we know that there's a demand for this. We know that there's money to be made on this, but we want to focus all of our attention on making the next thing great. I also think a portion of this is kind of the really overwhelmingly negative reception of the ending of Mass Effect 3. A lot of people were disappointed in that ending. And so I think what we see in this is maybe part of, well, we don't want people to marathon through 200 hours of Mass Effect only to feel that disappointment again, or because Andromeda is going to take place completely outside of the first 3 games. And so why leave a sour taste in people's mouths again? Because remasters are done for 2 reasons. They're done, number one, as a fan service to the people that enjoyed them to begin with, but they're also done as a way of getting people caught up that never got a chance to experience them in the first place, and giving them a more palatable experience than, say, the original Mass Effect, which does not age well. Yeah. And so if you pull people in only to have this new group of people be disappointed, are you hurting your market for Mass Effect Andromeda coming out sometime next year? So I do think that it's a little bit of a PR spin to say, hey, we want to be player first, and so we're not going to do it. But I also think internally there's those conversations of, can we avoid that disappointment with a new group of fans who may be jumping in for the first time to Mass Effect Andromeda without getting them jumping in at Mass Effect 3 to be kind of let down at the end? Which, all that Mass Effect 3 junk's blown out of proportion anyway. But that's not for EA to decide. That's for the people who are talking about it to decide. And they've decided they want to blow it out of proportion.
It kind of reminds me of the way people treat bands. Like, if a band puts out an album and it's like awesome and everyone loves it, the next album is almost always like garbage if it evolves at all. Mm-hmm. Either a band has to make the same album again and again and then get hated forever like Nickelback, or they can advance and then they're sellouts like Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
It's lose-lose.
And not to get too far into the weeds about this, but there are bands that show there's a way to do it as well. Yeah. Like Brand New is one of those bands where you go and listen to their first album and then their last album, and they don't even sound like the same band, but their fans stuck with them because it was a progression. And so
Reliant K.
Yeah, Reliant K is another good one. So Switchfoot,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's
They're
plenty.
going to be in Lynchburg next month.
I heard this, yes. I'm also in the time at GameStop where I can't ask for any time off. So, moving into the holidays.
I'm taking my youth group, so it's my job to be at that concert.
You get paid to go to the concert. Heard that. All right.
Sorry, I derailed us.
Let's move on very quickly to our reviews.
We've got reviews for you.
All right. First review, Valley from, Blue Isle Studios. I almost said Blue Moon Studios. That's something different. From Blue Isle Studios, Valley, and those are the people who made Slender: The Arrival. Valley.
Ooh.
Don't get excited. It's not that great.
Oh.
So, Valley is the story about a man who comes across this augmentation suit that is able to that allows him to be able to jump really high, run really fast, and you are trying to find this seed of life that is in the middle of this valley that has been powering things for years and years and years there, and you're trying to figure out how it harnessed its energy. The way the suit works is you can pull life from objects around you to fuel the suit, or you can deliver life back into things in order to give yourself more health, which is a kind of cool concept. So like the giving of life is something that allows you to live on, or it's metaphorical. But the game, from a gameplay standpoint, which is where everything boils down to, is repetitive, clunky. The combat is poor. There are multiple enemy types that all are taken down the same way, which is through these little energy shots that you do. The game isn't designed well enough to make the combat all that intuitive or even all that there's a level of easiness to taking out enemies that I think you have to be able to achieve, and the movement design of the enemies is so sporadic that you find yourself more so just trying to run through enemies rather than take them on head on. And so the gameplay is not all that fun. The story is somewhat interesting, but it also doesn't make a whole lot of sense why I'm supposed to care. Like, I just all of a sudden am in this valley and I'm discovering that during World War II they were trying to harness the seed of life's energy to create a super weapon before the atomic bomb could be made. And it didn't really make a lot of sense why Americans were racing against Americans to make a super weapon. But it kind of turns into a horror game in the second act. There's a lot of darkness, a few jump scares, some terrifying enemy designs that are there. But all in all, it's just a very poor game. So my review in a word is stale.
Mm-hmm.
It tries to be something and fails miserably at being it. So that's my essential review of Valley.
Hearing that actually makes a lot of sense to me. Like Slender benefited greatly from the fact that it was a game based on established and terrifying lore.
Mm-hmm.
If I just came across Slender the game without that, like, the gameplay's awful and the graphics are not impressive at all. Yeah. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on and talk about Battlefield 1 really quickly, which is nowhere even remotely close to the poor experience that I had with Valley. Battlefield 1's awesome. I'm just going to say that right now to you, man. I've made my decision about what my fall shooter is going to be, and Battlefield 1 is it. I think I'm going to play Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and I'm going to play the Modern Warfare Remaster, but Battlefield 1 is great. So the beta, you have one map, two different game modes. You have Rush and Conquest. Rush is the 24-player game type where you try to hold 2 points or you try to take 2 points, and then the more you take, the deeper into the map you progress. So there's I think 5 different levels that you can go through. And then Conquest is the 64-player game mode where you're trying to control 7 or 8 different points. The map is in the Sinai Desert, and it has elements that are wide open where the snipers and the range guys can really shine and the vehicles can really shine. And then there are tighter areas that are more for close quarter combat and the very visceral melee attacks that are in the game. So your sidearm, not your sidearm, but your melee weapon is just this giant trench club that you go through bashing people in the head with. You can bayonet charge with almost every weapon that you have, where you can run your bayonet through enemies. And the game just does a fantastic job of capturing the visceralness, if that's a word, the visceralicity,
the viscerality,
the viscerality of World War One. Like, the sound design is great. I mean, think about how DICE did with Battlefront, and this is what Cody writes over in his impressions on Battlefield 1 on twoleftSticks.com. But think about how Battlefront left no stone unturned to really capture the aesthetic, like what you would expect aesthetically from a Star Wars game, and that's exactly what they did in World War One. In Battlefield 1 with World War One, the sound design of the guns, the weight of your characters as they clash against other characters, the way that you respond when you get shot, just everything within it really just captures everything that you would expect to see in a World War One game. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, all the different vehicles and stuff that you can use. There's biplanes, there's bombers, there's old school tanks you can ride on horseback, there's flamethrowers, there's giant miniguns that you can pick up, all this kind of stuff. Yes.
Can I ride on a horseback while using a flamethrower?
You can. There are people who found a way to jump on the horse while someone else was piloting it while you had your flamethrower out. So sort of.
All right.
Is the answer. There's some gameplay video over on our YouTube channel of me doing work with a flamethrower. I was playing like crap the rest of the match. That's why you don't see any of the rest of the match. But I put in the flamethrower. I think I had like 11 kills with the flamethrower, and it does a fantastic job of capturing a level of dread that you would feel running up on a vehicle as just a guy with an assault rifle, or running up on a guy with a flamethrower as a guy with a shotgun or something like that. Like, it's terrifying. And they do a good job of making the game feel balanced while also giving you that scale. And the horses take quite a bit of damage, but I guess they have to, being considered a vehicle in the game. And they also did a good job of making people that are on horses a viable option to get kills, because you can run people over with your horse. You can run a sword through them. There's a crappy shotgun that you have on it as well that's really hard to kill people with, but you can be a force to be reckoned with while riding on the horse as well. So I enjoyed it a lot. Did you get a chance to play any of it?
I never actually played it, no.
Oh, man. That's unfortunate. You'd love it, man. The one thing that it does leave me asking a question about is the single-player mode of it. And what I don't want to see is them to use World War One as a vehicle to do the same tired old war narratives that are done in any kind of war-oriented game. And I don't think they will. They talk about this game with a level of respect for World War One that indicates that they are really going to try to capture the brutality and the gravity of this war. Last night I was playing Rush, which is the smaller of the two game modes. There were 220 kills between each on each team. So, and that was World War One. It was bodies. At the end of the day, it was bodies on the ground. And I think I was listening to Podcast Unlocked, and they were talking about an interview they heard with some developers from DICE and their research, and they were researching trench warfare. And one of the things that they read about was that there was a sludge that lined the trenches, that after a few days it became so unsanitary that people died just as much because of the sanitation than they did, enemy fire. But as they researched what that sludge was, because you'd assume it's raw sewage, no, it was bodies that they weren't able to get out of the trenches fast enough before they started decomposing and creating a layer of human remains on the bottom of the trenches. And you would imagine it's saying that in an interview, talking about that when you're talking about the design of a game, means they are entering into this with a level of respect that it requires. And that's what I want to see in the single player of this is really them saying there is nothing glamorous about war. And I don't feel like it ever felt it sounds odd. I had fun with the beta, but it never made it feel like World War One was glamorous. It really captured just how much of a disregard for human life World War I was, of just throwing young men into battle to die, and you just go and go and go until the objective is complete. So we don't do a review and a word for betas or impressions or anything like that, but those are my thoughts on it.
All right.
If it's still, I don't know when it actually closes. It may have closed last night, but if it didn't, you need to try to jump in and play a game.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to everybody's favorite segment, the random question of the week. A random question of the week for the month for this week. Larry.
Here's my question.
All right. This is totally going to blindside me, so I have no idea what it is.
So next month is October, which is super exciting. But there's an aspect of October that used to excite me that no longer excites me. My question, I'll ask it and then I'll elaborate. Walking Dead, do you care? We were very upset by the season finale. Upset enough that I was like, I'm done with this show. A combination of the finale and the way the entire season was handled. Scott Gimple, you suck. But now that you've had time to calm down and just, move past the emotion completely, are you at all excited for the new season or not?
This is actually funny. I thought about The Walking Dead for the first time since the season finale last night. For some reason, I don't even know what brought it up in my mind. Oh, I was reading somebody's article on another site, and I read their bio, and it said they were an avid Walking Dead fan. I can honestly say I don't give two flying craps about the season premiere of this show. They took, and I don't want to get too spoilery with it because we're not a Walking Dead podcast, but they took the most iconic moment in the comics and made it into a cliffhanger where it was not a cliffhanger in the comics. It was an impactful moment. I think about Game of Thrones and how Game of Thrones does a really good job of not leaving you with it leaves you questioning what's going to happen, but not in that really cheap way of, oh man, somebody died right there. Who is it that died? Like it leaves you with these moments of like, oh my gosh, that like impacted me. How are they going to one up that next week? This just the finale, the season finale of The Walking Dead felt like a cheap trick to get people to come back next year. Like they were afraid people weren't going to care after, So I can honestly say I don't even know if I'm going to watch this season because I just don't care.
It's like that person you date that is like constantly desperately making sure that you still like them until you're like, you know what? I don't anymore.
You're like, I did like you before all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was frustrated and I kept seeing, you'll get over it by the time the next season comes around, but here it is, and I'm like, I don't have cable generally, and I'm not going to waste my time going through the effort to get in a position where I can watch this show unless I start hearing glowing exclamations about how the producers of the show have learned from their mistakes, but I don't anticipate that happening. They just keep on with their crap, and they're going to keep on with their crap as long as people keep watching it.
Yeah, well, because last year they did it multiple times to where I didn't want to watch it sometimes in the middle of the season. The whole, 5 episodes of Glenn being under the dumpster, it was really a feeler of, who can we afford to lose here? Yeah. Who will fans be most upset about us losing? And
that and Daryl getting shot at the end of that one episode.
Yeah, it's just... I don't have much time for a show that doesn't that makes us decide where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Tell your story, even if it's different from the comic story. That's fine. Tell your story. There have been plenty of things you've changed from the comics that I've liked. I may not have liked them as much as the comic version of it, but I liked them all the same. And tell your story. Don't make me decide what your story is.
Yeah, and I almost get the feel that the producers of the show have been like, actually intimidated by the people who are like, if you kill such and such character, I'm not watching anymore. Like,
Yeah.
most of the people saying that are full of crap.
Yeah.
But the people saying, I'm going to stop watching if you don't start actually telling a story, that's legitimate, and they will stop, and we have.
Yeah. And I also have I lost the other incentive of I worked with a lot of people that like to talk about it, and I wanted to be a part of the conversation. I don't work with those people anymore, and I don't care about the conversation. So,
And this last season dropped a lot of my friends that liked it, and then that finale just killed the rest of you. So
yeah.
bye, Walking
But no
Dead.
one on the show yet. All right. Oh, go ahead.
It's going to be Glenn, but 5 episodes later you find out that he was just bleeding real bad, but he was fine.
Yeah, he's been just crawling through the woods. Oh, Maggie.
The zombies thought he was one of them because he was so messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. My stomach's growling. I'm
Fine.
hungry. Let's go around the circle here. And by that, I mean you tell me who you are and where we can find you.
I'm Larry. You can find me on Twitter at Lair Hunts Zombies. And I've written a couple of the articles on Two Left Sticks. And I edit some of them.
I've noticed you've stayed far, far away from my Madden piece.
I didn't touch anything edit-wise this week.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't. My job was crazy this week.
I figured you were just like, I don't know anything about Madden. I'm not doing that.
That too. I wouldn't have touched it.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke. Go ahead.
It's all right. Also, be on the lookout. Lair Hunts Evil will be making a comeback here soon. That's all we can say right now.
Yes.
I'm Luke Crawl. Find me on Twitter at TK from Antioch. Over on Xbox Live at Download a Hoagie. Don't add me on PlayStation. I play single player stuff there. There's no point. Also, we are the Player 3 Podcast. Find us on twitch.tv/Player3Podcast, youtube.com/Player3Podcast, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher. Leave us a review. We'll read it out on the podcast. Patreon.com/2LeftSticks to support the podcast. Make sure you check out that $6 tier. The greatest photo ever taken gets shipped to you on a nice 3x5 hyper glossy sheet of paper. It's going to be great. It's going to be so good, Larry. You just you can't even begin to comprehend yet. But we thank you for tuning in. We love you. We are the Player 3 Podcast. Player 3 Podcast, P3P.
Ugh.